Welcome. Scott here. Today I bring you another Black Clover mobile guide. Let's proceed to talk about the featured daily boss. It seems that the either upgraded skill effect and extra passive will change from day to day. The boosted mage will also change from day to day. So don't be surprised if the strategy that you have used previously won't work when you do the run today. Now let's proceed to talk about the featured daily boss. You will be fighting the Titan's heavy armor, Mars. He is a blue attacker mage. Before I go through the upgraded skill effect and extra passive, let me go through his base kit first. Similar to Fanzil and Mariella, he also has 4 abilities. His skill 1 is a single target attacking ability. Upon attacking, he will inflict stun status ailment on the target for a turn. If target has active continuous bleed, he will grant himself an increased critical damage level 3 buff for 2 turns. His skill 2 is another single target attacking ability. Upon attacking, he will inflict 3 stacks of continuous bleed damage on the target for 3 turns. This will automatically trigger hyperbolic shock, which will prevent the targeted unit from receiving any healing until the continuous damage instants are removed or lapsed. The ability will also inflict reduced all attack level 3 debuff on the target for 2 turns. Similar to other skill 2, the ability has 3 turn cooldown phase. His skill 3 is a non-attacking ability. He will grant himself 2 buffs, a 50% increased defense buff and increased all attack level 4 buff. Both buffs last for 4 turns. His special is an AoE attacking ability. It will lens a critical hit if Mars has an active buff on himself upon executing the attack. If he has been inflicted with buff immunity debuff, he will grant himself buff immunity removal. Like other bosses, he is immune to silence, total silence and status ailments such as stun or freeze. He is also immune to reduced mobility, mobility depletion, and reduced speed. On top of his default skill abilities and passive, he will also gain an upgraded skill effect or extra passive. This will change from day to day of the boss fights. For today's boss buff, these are the following effects. His skill 1 will inflict disarm level 3 debuff on the target for 2 turns. His skill 3 will remove 2 active debuffs. He will gain an extra turn after using his special if he has an active buff. As you go higher the difficulty level, he will gain extra passive. From part 4 onwards, if he has an active buff at the start of his turn, he will inflict 20% reduced speed debuff for 3 turns on one enemy with the highest speed. From part 7 onwards, if continuous bleed damage is present on himself upon taking damage, he will grant himself a 20% reduced damage taken buff for 3 turns. For part 10, if a buff is present himself upon attacking, he will gain a 50% increased mobility. The 2 boosted mages for today is Rhya and Ceremony Charlotte. With the mechanics explained, let me proceed with my showcase for the runs.
I want is victory.
What'll be my next piece?
Phew, scary business.